All right, today I've got something different for you. I want to share with you how I got duped as a 14-year-old kid at a music store. You see, it all started actually with my childhood friend. His name was Buddy, and he lived down the street from me growing up. And well, his real name was Ian, but everybody called him Buddy. And one day I skateboarded down to Buddy's house, and he said, "John, you got to check this out." And he had this live recording. It was Led Zeppelin's "The Song Remains the Same." And so he put it on, and we were watching this live performance at Madison Square Garden, and I'd never heard anything like it in my life. It was amazing. I mean, Jimmy Page's guitar riffs and the way he played with the Les Paul that he had, and Robert Plant just singing incredible, and of course John Bonham just pounding away on the drums, and John Paul Jones just holding it all together with his brilliant musicianship and just, filling in those other spots around him. They just had such an amazing synergy in this concert. And from that point on, I actually went on a Led Zeppelin binge where I just listened to all their records for quite a while. And shortly after this, my mom was taking me and my brother to Sam Ash Music Store down the street. And I used to love going to Sam Ash and just looking up at all the guitars and checking out the gear. And they used to have these big sheet music sections where they had these racks and you could go and see all these books. And so I'm moseying down the aisles and I stumble upon the most beautiful sight I'd ever seen. I looked like Gollum or Smeagol from The Lord of the Rings when he found the ring and just angels were singing. It was like, oh, and what was it? It was a Led Zeppelin complete book. So I open it up and I'm like looking at it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I turn it over on the other side because the price would always be on the bottom, on the back. And I looked and it was like $50. And I was like, whoa, this is expensive. But at the time I'd actually had a paper route. And so I'd saved up some money. And so I went to my mom right away. I was like, Mom, could I buy this? And she's like, sure. So sure enough, I check out and I remember just carrying it in a bag, walking out to the car, just being so excited. Okay, I'm finally gonna learn all these songs that I love, and I couldn't wait to dive into it. So I got home, and over the next couple weeks, I was just thumbing through the book, and I got to songs I was like, oh, Communication Breakdown, I wanna learn that one. And as I looked through the chords, you would see these sort of cowboy chords like... And so I started strumming those chords and I was like, I'm not sure if this is right, because on the recording, I was hearing things like, different guitar parts. It wasn't just the campfire chords. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Let me try a different song. And so I go to a different song, and sure enough, it's kind of the same thing. And I'm like, wait, where are the riffs? Like, are there any tabs in this? And it was basically just like piano charts. Like, I think it'd been written by a piano player, and they'd figure out, of course, like, these are the chords to Communication Breakdown, E, D, A, but it was played in a different way. You have that palm muting, you've got the kind of chunking on the bass strings, and then these chords higher up the neck. And so I didn't know what to do. I was like, I think this is like off, or this was not what I was looking for. And so I went back to Sam Ash and I was like, hey, this isn't like what I was looking for. And they're like, hey, we don't return sheet music, because at the time it's like once you bought sheet music, you could photocopy it, and people would, I'm sure, would just do that and take advantage of the system. And so they said, hey, we don't return it. And I didn't photocopy it. I was like, it's not the right thing. And they're like, too bad. And so I was out the money. And so that was me getting duped. But what I didn't know is I just didn't understand that so much sheet music and so many lessons out there aren't accurate to the recordings, and they have wrong chords and they have wrong notes, or they're written in different ways, like riffs are on different strings, or maybe something's supposed to be in a tuning, and there's just so much that goes into guitar. And I found this out later, years later, when I got out of music school. Some friends of mine had a startup company where they had a sheet music app that would sync to YouTube. And so I actually got hired on to write out tons of guitar parts for them, because they knew I could like pick up guitar parts fast and write them out. And so I was writing out Clapton solos and writing out just tons of stuff. And I'm a nerd for this. Obviously, if you're watching my channel, you've seen like thousands of videos that I've put up about breaking down songs. And so this was when I started to realize that, people at these companies and things, and a lot of times anything can get down on the page and they ship it out. And so when you're watching a lesson, when you are even purchasing sheet music, you're really at the mercy of whoever is putting that together. And there's not a lot of fact checkers out there, and it takes a special amount of like fretboard knowledge and just guitar knowledge. Like, you could have a keyboard player figure out the chords, but do they know like the finger picking techniques that they were using, or do they know, was it with a pick, or was it with a thumb pick, or did they have a capo, or was there an alternate tuning? And all these things that when you become a guitar player and you understand the fretboard, you can get. And so anyway, so that was my story about getting duped as a 14-year-old at a music store. And you know, you live and you learn, and if you want to improve being able to figure out songs and understand like what I'm talking about here, then go to johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide and get your hands on my free fretboard guide PDF. When you understand the fretboard's natural roadmap, you can pick up songs easier, you can play rhythm and lead better, and you just understand how everything clicks together on the guitar. And I want to show you my system for this. I put it all on one page, and it's completely free. Just go to johnmclennan.com/fretboard guide and grab that now as my gift to you. As always, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you might like this one next.